No one saw him as a threat. That was the first mistake. Samwell Tarly shuffled through the cold corridors of the Red Keep, clutching a leather-bound tome tighter than a sword. He wasn't supposed to be here, not really. He was just another forgotten man in the shadows of greater lords and louder warriors. His weight, his softness, his hesitation, all of it made people glance past him, never seeing the storm brewing behind those nervous eyes. But Samwell was watching, listening, learning. The war was over, or so they said. The Dragon Queen had died. The Northern Wolf had gone silent, and the Iron Throne had been melted down into black, twisted bones of metal. Bran the Broken had been crowned king, carried to his seat in silence, a face carved with stillness that unnerved Samwell more than wildfire ever could. Sam had voted for him. Maybe he had even believed in him back then. But something had changed. The realm hadn't healed. It had rotted quietly under Bran's distant, watchful gaze. Ravaged villages received no aid. Corrupt lords returned to power, emboldened by the new king's silence. Samwell wrote letters, he pleaded in council meetings, he begged. He was ignored. "Don't worry yourself with politics," Ser Davos had once said, trying to comfort him. "You're doing more good in the library than any of us on the council." But Sam saw the truth in Bran's eyes, a cold, calculating emptiness. He didn't rule the realm. He observed it, like a crow on a corpse. And Samwell couldn't forget the screams. Not from war, not from fire, but from a northern village he'd visited on the king's errand. A mission to deliver grain, he was told. But when he arrived, he found only ashes, bodies, a blackened sigil drawn in soot on a barn door, three-eyed raven. They were sacrifices. He never said a word about it to anyone. Not even Jilly. Especially not Jilly. She had noticed the change in him. Sam had stopped stuttering. He spoke less, but when he did, there was weight behind every word. He touched his sword more often, not like a knight, but like a man who knew. He might need to use it. Heartsbane, his father's blade, he had brought it south again. "Are you angry, Sam?" she had asked one night while nursing little Sam to sleep. He didn't answer her. He kissed her forehead, and then he stayed awake. Long after the candles burned out. What Samwell knew now could burn the world. He had discovered something deep in the restricted vaults beneath the citadel, a vision recorded by a mad Meister, long dead. It spoke of a king with no soul, a being trapped in flesh, but not bound by it. A mind that could see past and future. Yes, but also manipulate both. And the Meister had named him Bran the Broken. Not a man, the scroll said. Not anymore. Sam didn't want to believe it. He still tried not to. But the facts piled like bodies. Villages turned to ash. Lords who spoke against Bran disappeared. Natural causes. Bandits. Fevers. No pattern, unless you had a mind like Samwell Tarly, unless you remembered how often the king seemed to know things he shouldn't. "I see through the trees," Bran once said during council, eyes fogged, voice cold. "All men are branches. Some must be pruned." It was then Samwell knew. Bran wasn't ruling Westeros, he was trimming it like a gardener trims weeds. Sam read everything he could on skin changers, green seers, and ancient spirits that wear men. Like clothes. He found a name older than Westeros itself, the memory that devours, a thing from the north, locked in the roots of the weirwoods. A creature Bran had once touched, a creature Bran had become. And so Sam made his choice. He would do what Jon Snow couldn't. What Daenerys died for trying, what no one else dared even speak aloud. He would kill a king, no rebellion, no banners, no allies. Just him and Heartsbane. And a secret. Because if Bran knew the future, Sam had only one chance. A moment Bran hadn't seen coming. A hole in fate itself. And if Samwell Tarly could find it, the coward would make history with blood. The day Samwell Tarly decided to kill the king. He also accepted he wouldn't come back. There were no songs for fat boys with shaking hands and bad aim. No bards strumming tales of scholars turned assassins. And that was fine. Sam didn't want a song, he wanted justice, or whatever piece of it he could still hold on to before the world slipped into madness under a king with dead eyes. He left. Jilly and little Sam asleep in the small stone house they'd been given inside the city's second ring. He didn't say goodbye. How could he? What would he say? I'm off to murder a man I voted to crown? No, this wasn't a tale he wanted told. Not to her, not to anyone. He wore no armor, only a thick cloak and a tunic loose enough to hide. The hilt of heartsbane strapped across his back. The sword felt heavy, not just in weight but in history. His father had hated him, would have sooner fed him to dogs than seen him wield the ancestral blade of House Tarly. And yet now, here, he was carrying it into the Red Keep like a silent vengeance from beyond the grave. He slipped past the outer guards with a nod. They remembered him as the quiet one from the council, the one always late, always mumbling. Harmless. Inside, the castle was quieter than he remembered. No laughter, no steel clashing in training yards. Only silence and the soft moans of wind, moving through cold stone halls. Bran had dismissed half the servants weeks ago, said he no longer needed them, said it was for the good of the realm. Sam knew why. Less ears, less eyes. He passed through the old council chamber. Dust lay thick across the table, save for one spot, Bran's chair. It was polished and untouched, like a shrine. The others hadn't gathered in weeks. The king no longer called meetings. He simply knew what must be done and sent out his ravens. Sam's heart was a drumbeat in his ears. He walked slower now, every footstep echoing back at him like judgment. The weight of what he was about to do pressed on him from all sides. He reached the king's chambers. 2 king's guards stood there, tall and cloaked in white. One was Sir Randon Vyse, a cold-eyed man from the Stormlands who'd once beheaded a thief for stealing a pear. The other was Sir Kelton, younger, kinder, but loyal beyond sense. Sam paused. Sir Tarly, Randon said, frowning. His Grace didn't summon you. I know, Sam replied, voice low, but he'll want to see me. You can leave a message, Sir Kelton offered, glancing toward the heavy oak doors. No, he'll want to see me now. Sam held up an old scroll, the one he'd found at the Citadel. Bran would know what it meant. That was the point. Sir Randon's eyes narrowed. Show it to us. No, there was a pause, then the door creaked open behind them. Bran's voice came from within, flat as always. Let him in. The Kingsguard didn't move. They just stepped aside. Sam entered the king's chamber. It was dark. The windows were covered in thick cloth, the air stinking of candle wax and some deeper, earthy rot. Bran sat in his wheeled chair at the far end of the room, surrounded by tomes, raven feathers, and a single weirwood carving resting beside him like a pet. He didn't smile. You came earlier than expected, Bran said softly. Sam froze. You knew? Bran blinked slowly. Of course I did. Then silence. A heavy one. Sam drew heartsbane. The Valyrian steel caught what little light there was. I have to stop you. Bran looked at the sword, then back at Sam. Why now? Sam's grip tightened. Because I found the village. I saw what you did. And I read the old records. I know what you are. Bran didn't move, didn't flinch. I'm not what I was, Sam. You're not Bran anymore. No, Bran said, but neither are you. That stopped Sam cold. What? Bran's face remained empty, but his voice dropped, almost mournful. You think you're doing this of your own will, but you're not. You're playing your part, like Jon did, like Daenerys, like me. Sam stepped closer, the point of the blade inches from Bran's chest now. This ends tonight. Bran looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time there was something behind those eyes, something ancient, patient, and endless. It never ends, Bran whispered. It only begins again. And then, Sam drove the sword forward. It pierced flesh. Bran's body jerked. And then, he smiled. Bran's smile was the kind that didn't belong to a dying man. It was wrong, quietly monstrous, as though Sam hadn't just driven a Valyrian steel blade through his chest, but had merely scratched the surface of something much, much older. Sam stepped back, his breath ragged. His hands were shaking now, not from fear, but from confusion. Blood should have pooled. But Bran didn't bleed, not properly. A thin trickle of dark red ran down his robe, but it wasn't like human blood. It moved slower, like sap from a tree, thick and dark, almost black. The wound should have killed him instantly. Instead, Bran's hands remained still on the arms of his wooden chair. and his eyes, those unblinking pale blue eyes, stayed fixed on Sam, as if he were watching a distant storm arrive on the horizon. "You've pierced the vessel," Bran murmured, voice low and disembodied now, as though carried by wind in a crypt. "But not the roots." Sam backed away. His chest tightened, a cold coil of fear knotting around his ribs. Heartsbane, once hot with purpose, suddenly felt heavier in his grip, as if it too had realized it had done something terrible. I don't understand," Sam whispered. "You will," Bran said. And then it began. The room grew colder. Not the kind of chill Sam had known in Castle Black or north of the Wall. This was deeper. A stillness that sucked the warmth from his bones, a pressure behind the eyes, a hum in the skull like 1,000 whispering mouths beneath the floorboards. The weirwood carving beside Bran began to bleed. Not sap, not blood. Something in between. Milky, red-veined fluid slid from its wooden eyes and pooled at its base, glowing faintly with a sick light. Raven feathers on the desk scattered as if caught in a sudden invisible wind. Bran's mouth opened, but the voice that came was not his own. It was old. It was layered. It echoed with the weight of centuries. "You were never meant to see this. Samwell Tarly." Sam dropped to one knee, the sword nearly slipping from his grasp. He clenched his teeth, trying to shut out the voice. It wasn't just speaking into his ears, it was inside his head, brushing memories, peeling through thoughts, like pages in a book. "You think you act on justice, but you are only a vessel too, you always were." "No," Sam groaned, clutching his head. "I chose this. I saw what you've done. The villages, the executions. You've corrupted him. Bran was broken. He invited me in. The boy who could not walk wanted to fly, and so I gave him wings." Sam looked up. Bran's face had changed now, slightly. Subtle at first. His skin had tightened, his jaw more angular, his cheekbones sharper. His eyes glowed faintly, pale as a full moon. The thing inside him. It was showing itself. "You're not of this world," Sam said, voice steadier now, even if his body trembled. "How you're not from the north, you're older than the first men. I am the memory of the forest, the wrath of the forgotten, the vengeance of roots torn from earth. You're a parasite." That made the thing laugh. A soft, rustling sound like leaves in wind. "I am nature corrected, time rewritten. Your world is a disease, and I am the cure." Sam stood. His knees nearly buckled, but he kept his grip on Heartsbane. The wound in Bran's chest still glowed faintly, but it hadn't healed. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't invincible. "You wear a dead boy's skin," Sam said, teeth clenched, "but he's still in there somewhere. I saw it before, when you smiled. That was his smile. You're not in full control." For the first time, the creature paused, and that pause was everything. Sam lunged again, this time not at Bran's heart, but at his neck. He slashed clean and hard, the blade slicing through sinew and bone. Bran's head snapped sideways, nearly severed, and the chair tipped backward, crashing to the stone floor with a wooden crack. Bran, the thing inside him, let out a long, inhuman gasp. The bleeding intensified. That awful black-red ooze pooled quickly now, steaming as it touched stone. The weirwood carving caught fire, not with flame, but with some kind of white heat that cracked it from the inside out. Sam stumbled back, panting. The voice returned. "This time fractured, breaking apart. You fool, we are not done." Bran's body convulsed once. Twice. Then it stopped. Silence. Only the sound of Samwell's breathing remained, and then, knock from the other side of the door. A voice. "Sir Randon, is everything all right in there, my lord?" Sam stared at the mess. The broken king, the dead thing that used to see through trees. He had done it. He had killed the king. Now he just had to survive long enough to explain why. The body wasn't enough. Samwell Tarly had studied enough death to know when something was over, and Bran's body lay cracked and still, yes, but the air hadn't returned to normal. The warmth hadn't crept back into the stones beneath his feet. The silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt watchful. "Sir Randon," Sam called through the door, forcing calm into his voice. "The king collapsed. He's not breathing. We need a meister." A pause. Then footsteps retreating. That bought him minutes, maybe less. Sam turned back to what was left of the boy he once called friend. Bran's head lolled unnaturally, his mouth open, eyes glassy. But that thing, that force Sam had felt in the room, where had it gone? He stepped closer to the cracked weirwood carving. Whatever presence had been speaking through Bran had bled into it. The wood pulsed faintly like a heartbeat in reverse. He could hear it still, a whisper just below hearing, and he knew it wasn't dead. Just dislodged. It needed another vessel. Sam had read about such things in ancient texts, half-forgotten legends from the children of the forest, of spirits that moved like smoke between mines. Greenseers who went too deep into the roots and brought something back with them. Possession, symbiosis, or worse, infestation. And now, with Bran gone, it was searching. He couldn't let it find someone else. Burn. It, Sam muttered to himself. Fire. You need fire. But there was none, no torches, just books, scrolls, and coldstone. His eyes fell on Bran's chair, on the old raven-feathered cloak still draped behind it. Then, finally, Heartsbane. Valyrian steel had harmed it once. Wood. It'd be enough to finish the job. He raised the sword above the weirwood carving and swung downward with a roar. The blade split the wood in two, a high-pitched wail tearing through the air as if 1,000 voices screamed through stone. The pulse stopped instantly. The glow died. The air shifted, just air again. Sam staggered back, falling to one knee. His chest felt tight, lungs raw from cold. But the silence now was real. It was over. Or so he thought, until the door burst. Open! Sir Randon and Sir Kelton stormed in with 2 other guards. Their eyes landed on Bran's twisted body, the black blood, the shattered weirwood idol, and the man in the middle holding a bloodied ancestral sword. Sam didn't even try to explain. They drew steel. Sam turned, raising Heartsbane, eyes wild. But before they could strike, "Stop!" came a sharp voice. Maester Carrick, red-faced and panting, stood behind the guards. I told you he had leave," Sam shouted. "The king summoned me." Carrick blinked, and to Sam's shock, nodded. "He did," the old Maester lied. "I was there when the raven came this morning." Sir Randon hesitated. "But look at this." Carrick stepped forward. "Look at it carefully. That is not blood. Not entirely. And that," he pointed at Bran's warped body, "is not the boy we crowned last year." Kelton looked to Sam, then to the broken carving and back. "What happened here?" he whispered. Sam wiped sweat from his brow. "The king was already dying. He'd been taken by something else. Something not human. I tried to free him, but it was too late. No one moved. No one spoke." Carrick stepped beside Sam and looked. "Down at Bran's corpse. We'll call it a sickness," he said. "That's what the people will hear, but you and I will write the truth." Sam stared at him. "You knew?" Carrick nodded slowly. "I suspected, but I didn't have the courage, not like you." The guards lowered their swords, slowly. Sam felt his knees finally give. He dropped to the cold floor and let the sword clatter. Beside him, he didn't cry, he didn't scream, he just breathed, because somehow against everything he had lived. But the realm had just lost its king, and Samwell Tarly had just killed him. They buried Bran quietly before sunrise. No bells, no feast, no procession of mourning lords. Only the inner circle knew what had really happened, and even fewer knew why. Sam stood beside the open grave just outside the Red Keep's sept, the sky above pale and grey. Maester Carrick gave the final word, stiff and formal, his voice steady only because it had been trained to be. No one cried. Not even Sam, because Bran hadn't been Bran for a long time. Sam had watched it happen. Slowly, like snow melting into dirty water. That thing had worn Bran like a skin. His death wasn't tragic, it was necessary. Still, the weight of it pressed hard. He was the man who killed a king, even if no one said it out loud. It was written in every look cast his way. The guards never met his eyes now. The small folk whispered, behind his back, though they didn't know the full truth. Jilly, she had questions, but he hadn't answered them. Not yet. And then there was the council. Within 2 days of Bran's burial, they convened in secret. 7 lords and ladies, Davos, Brienne, Jon Royce, even Tyrion, pulled from his self-imposed exile to stand at the center of power once again. They stared at Sam like he was something between a savior and a weapon. "For you acted alone," Tyrion said carefully, hands folded. "You made a decision that changed the realm, you understand that?" Sam nodded once. "And yet you are not in chains," Jon Royce growled. "Why is that?" "Because he was right," Brienne said, quietly looking only at the table. "That thing wasn't Bran." Davos nodded grimly. "I saw the records Sam brought. I saw the wound, the weirwood carving, the Maester's notes from Old Town. Something unnatural happened." Lady Asha Greyjoy snorted. "Aye, and who's to say the next king won't be worse? Maybe we crown Samwell here and let him stab himself to keep the peace." The room tensed. Sam didn't flinch. "I don't want a throne, I never wanted power. But I won't stay silent while another puppet sits on it." Brienne turned to him slowly. "Then who?" Silence. The chair at the head of the table remained empty. Tyrion looked at it for a long time. "We don't need another boy with magic blood," he muttered. "We need someone who bleeds like the rest of us." He turned to Sam. "Your choice killed a god, Sam. You should choose who replaces him." Sam's chest clenched. He didn't want this. He wanted to go back to the library, to Gilly, to peace. But peace had died the moment Bran saw through time and started pulling the strings of the world. Sam looked around the room, men and women hardened by war, by loss, by sacrifice. They needed hope. They needed order. He opened his mouth, then paused and chose, "Sir Davos." The Onion Knight's eyes widened. "Me?" "You're not noble by blood," Sam said. "But you've bled for this realm more than anyone in this room. You've seen good kings and monsters, and you've never once sought a crown." Davos looked stunned. "But I can barely read." "Then you'll listen," Sam said. "That's more than our last king ever did." The room murmured. But no one rose in protest. One by one the council nodded. It was done. Davos Seaworth was crowned Lord Protector of the realm within a week, not a king, but a steward, a caretaker, until Westeros was strong enough to choose its own fate again. And Samwell Tarly. He returned home, to Gilly, to little Sam, to his books. But he never told them everything. Not about the screams in the dark. Not about the voice that still whispered sometimes in dreams, because deep down Sam knew something Bran had once said was true. It never ends. It only begins again. The world moved on. The streets of King's Landing began to heal in the way cities always do after catastrophe, slowly, unevenly, and with plenty of lies. The people were told that King Bran had succumbed to a hidden sickness of the mind, one that stole his speech, his warmth, and eventually his life. No one questioned it. They wanted to believe it. They needed to. Lord Davos ruled with plain honesty and a sailor's stubbornness. He held council meetings in the open. He listened. He sent supplies to starving villages without needing letters or bribes. He even passed a decree requiring maesters to train more healers than scribes, and he always asked Samwell Tarly's opinion, though Sam never returned to the council chamber. Not once. Instead, Sam chose exile in peace. Not the kind with shackles or walls, but the quiet withdrawal of a man who had tasted power, death, and the breaking of something sacred. He lived in a small home near Horn Hill, closer to the land his father once ruled with an iron will. It was ironic, perhaps, that the son his father had called a coward would return to the land of his birth as its silent guardian. Sam spent his days with books and his family. He taught little Sam how to read and how to ask questions. He taught Gilly how to write her name, then how to correct his spelling when he got lazy. The world outside kept spinning. Rumors of rebellion in the Reach, whispers of pirate kings rising in the east, and tensions in Dawn. But Sam stayed out of it. He had given enough of himself to the realm, until one night, when the dreams returned. It began with trees, twisted, ancient, their faces weeping blood. The branches stretched across stars, and through them walked a man with no face but 1,000 voices, the same voice he'd heard in Bran's chamber. "You pruned one branch," it said, "but the roots run deep." Sam woke drenched in sweat. his chest heaving. Jilly stirred beside him. "You dreamed again," she whispered, not asking, just knowing. Sam nodded slowly, staring at the ceiling. She reached for his hand. "Is it coming back?" "I don't know," he said softly, "but I think it never really left." He rose before dawn and went to his study. He opened his old satchel, the one he hadn't touched since the day Bran died. Inside were scraps of parchment, faded scrolls, maps of the North, and one brittle document written in a dead language from the time of the children. He spent hours rereading, not because he hoped to find comfort, but because he feared the truth. The thing inside. Bran had a name no tongue could hold. It had been passed down through symbols, visions, root dreams, a being older than dragons, older than men. It had been buried once, bound beneath the roots of the greatest weirwood in the world, in the heart of the haunted forest. But when Bran broke the past, he also broke the seal. The spirit wasn't just in Bran, it had merely used him first, and now it was awake. Sam closed the scroll slowly. He thought of Jon, alone beyond the wall, of Arya, sailing into the unknown, of Tyrion, tired, and haunted in a castle too quiet for his cleverness. It would return. Maybe not in his lifetime. Maybe not in his son's. But it would return, and someone else would have to make the same choice he did. That knowledge didn't bring peace, but it brought purpose. That night, Samwell Tarly took up quill and parchment, not to rewrite history, but to leave a warning. Not for lords or maesters or knights, but for the scared boy he used to be, for anyone who believed they were too soft, too slow, too scared to stand against evil. "I was called a coward," he wrote, "and yet I stood before a god and told it. No," he signed it simply, Sam. And when he sealed the scroll, he smiled, not with pride, but with the quiet sadness of a man who had once killed a king to save a realm that would never thank him. The coward who killed a king and saved the world. For now.